So this video is about percent, particularly the focus of increase of and decrease of. So we talk about percents, we can see them along a number line or a tape diagram, whatever you want to call these things. And we can see that one end would be 0 or 0%, so the amount is 0. And then down the other end would be 100%. And in this case, that would be 80. So the top, we have the numbers, and the bottom, we have the percents. And then with this knowledge, we can start to fill in the rest of the number line. So for example, if 80 is 100%, then 40 or halfway through would be 50%. And then halfway between 0 and 50 would be 25%. So half of the 40 would be 20. And then if we know 25%, we can use multiplication to get to 75%, because the great thing about tape diagrams with percentages on it is that they are all the elements are all proportional. So if I know that 25% is 20, I can multiply both of those by 3. That would give me 75%, and what 75% would be at, which is 60. Okay. So another element we can do is we can use the proportionality of percents and the numbers to find smaller amounts. So for example, we could find 10% of anything by just taking the 100% amount and dividing it by 10. So therefore 10% would be 8. And then we can just use that to build all these other percents, 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on, and just adding 8 to the previous one, or multiplying 8 by any number to get the new one. And then if we know that 8 is 10%, we can cut that in half and we can find 5%. So what's nice about this idea about percents and the number line is it gets us thinking mentally about numbers and how they're easily defined, certain landmarks, 50%, 10%, 5%, things like that. So let's look at a problem. Jean has 60 text messages. 35% of them are from Susan. How many text messages does she have from Susan? All right. So we go back to our thinking on this and we say, all right, here's what we know. We know that 100% is 60. And we know that 35% of the text messages went to Susan. So we don't know the number, but we can use our number line to make connections. So if 60 is 100%, then 6 is 10%. So using that connection, that I can find 10% as by just taking 100% and dividing by 10. Okay, and if 6 is 10%, then 3 is 5%. If I know 5%, I can connect 5% directly to 35 by multiplying by 7, and I can do the same thing up here. If 5% times 7 is 35, then 3 times 7 would give us what x is, and the answer would be 21. So Susan's text message number was 21. Okay, so we just use our tape diagram and our landmarks to figure it out. We can also just build up to it. So instead of finding exactly what this is by using the proportionality of percents and their numbers that connect to it, we just say, well, 35 is really just 10% plus 10% plus 10% plus an additional 5%. So I can take 6 plus 6 plus 6 and then add 3 because that's 5%, and that would also give us 21. So whatever mental way you can think about it, the landmarks, the tape measure, all this stuff can help you. Okay, so let's look at one. A coat selling for $120 is discounted 25%. What is the sale price? Well, I know that 100% is $120, but we're getting 25% off. So that means I'm not paying 100%, I'm only paying 75%. So we need to know, what is 75% of the 120? Okay, well, since $120 is 100%, then $30 would be 25%. So down here would be 25%. And if 100% minus 25% is 75%, then I could take the $120, which is 100%, subtract 30, which is 25%, and that would give me 90. So $90 is 75%. So the cost of the coat is $90. Okay, but let's look at an increase now. In a retail store, the prices were increased 60%. What would be the price of an item if the original price was $20? So we know that the 100% is $20. But we also know that they added 60 on to the 100%. So therefore, they're adding something to the $20 to make it the new price. We need to figure out what is this 160%. Okay? And the way you do that is, well, we could say, since $20 is 100%, we know that $2 would be 10%. And 10% times 10% times 6 would give us 60%. So therefore, if 10% is $2, 2 times 6 would give us 12, and 12 is 60%. And therefore, we know the original amount, which is 100%, is 20, and we know 60% is $12. Add those two together, and we would find the cost of the item would be $32. All right, so let's do one more. A price of a pair of shoes is increased from $24 to $60. What is the percent of increase? So using our tape diagram or our number line, we were looking for 100%. Well, the 100% would be the $24. And they increased it to 60%. So we need to know what percent that is. What percent that is, the 60%. Well, to solve this, we have to think about what's the connection between 24 and 60. Well, to go from 24 to 60, that's 36. And so that's going to play a role in how I figure out my answer. So since 24 is 100%, 6 would be 25%. And I get that because if I take 100% divided by 4, I get 25%. If I take the 24, I divide it by 6. Divided by 4, I get 6. And $6 times 6 is $36. And if the $6 is 25%, then 25% times 6 is 150. So therefore, $36 is 150%. So to go from 24 to 60 is 150%. So X would be 250. But that isn't the answer to the question. 250 is what the new price is. The question is, what is the percent of increase? The percent of increase would be only 150%, meaning that this, when we found the $36, was 150%. That's how I was able to make the connection, and that was actually the answer. The 250 is just what the 60 represents. We just want to know what percent it increased from 24 to 60, and that would be 150%.